So today we're talking about why simply getting a new job isn't the answer to feeling better if you have been burnt out. And so, yeah, tell me a little bit about you. Introduce yourself and tell me a bit about your story and how you came to find this out.
All right. Okay, I'm on mute again, it says.
It often seems to say that when people are on headsets, but I can still hear
Okay.
you.
Okay, perfect. So a little bit about me. I am a writer. I'm a homeschooling mom of three, and yeah, thanks. It's definitely a challenge, but and a entrepreneur. So I started out as doing little things here and there. I mean, obviously, I was in a 9 to 5 job, and then I had kids, and I started like an at-home daycare, and that was just like crazy. And so then I was like, okay, I can work from online. This was 12 years ago. I was like, oh my gosh, it's like a real thing, or about 10 years ago, I guess. And so I worked for a couple of companies doing marketing for real estate agents, their website copy and their newsletters and their email sequences and their brochures, things like that, social media posts.
And how
And
different was that sort of 10, 12 years ago than it is now? Because obviously, post pandemic, everyone's like, oh, yeah, working from home, doing online stuff, that's totally normal. But back then, not so much.
no, it was crazy. Like, I seriously, I finished my degree. I have a business management degree, and I finished my degree, and the whole plan was to go back to school or to go back to work, to go to 9 to 5. At the time, I had let's see, I think it was 5-year-old. I guess he was like 4-year-old and a 2-year-old or 1 2-year-old. And I was like, man, I can't do this. I can't send him to school. And, my husband is a chef. So we decided to homeschool so that, he can actually be involved in their lives.
Mm-hmm.
And we were like, let's just try it for a year, see how it goes. So I was like, okay, well, I have to be able to supplement my income. And I'd finished my degree and um, just started looking online for stuff and came across the company that I could work from home. And I was like, wow, that's interesting. It was a crazy process to get started and it was low pay, but I was home.
Mm-hmm. So you're kind of balancing, I guess, yeah, conflicting priorities, that wanting to be able to spend more time with your kids, being able to homeschool them, with also needing to, to get some income. And it sounds like not the easiest balance to have struck.
No, not at all. Because the biggest part was, it's supposed to add value to your life and you have that quality time with your kids. But when you're so worried about all these little tasks you have to do all day, it's really hard to give them that quality time.
Yeah, absolutely. So
Because there's only so many hours.
how do you manage homeschooling and working at the same time? I mean, I'm assuming you don't do it at the same time.
No, that would be crazy talk. But I do give them 9:30 to 12:30 is homeschool time.
Okay.
That's when we do our homeschooling. And that has helped a lot to kind of set the tone for our day so that, okay, I know I did what I needed to do for homeschooling. Now I can do, things I need to do. But the hardest part is I have a toddler.
Mm-hmm.
So I have a 13-year-old, 10-year-old, and a 2-year-old.
Right.
So she's the most complicated aspect of the whole thing. but it's just all about just figuring out what's the most important things I need to get done. If it's client work and stuff, that always goes first for my kids, and then anything extra that things that I need to do for my business go last, I guess.
Okay. And so while you were, in the before you launched your own business and you were working for someone else, obviously you decided to make a change. So it can't have been working out exactly the way you wanted it to. Can you tell me a little bit more about what wasn't right when you were working for this other company?
Yeah, actually, I had switched companies,
Okay.
and then the new company that I was working for, it was supposed to be like a freelancer situation where I could work when I wanted to work, whatever, things like that. And it ended up being not like that at all. And it ended up the expectations, of, oh, okay, well, I need you to do this now. And I'm like, well, that's not happening because I work on my own time, which was the original plan. became an issue.
Mm-hmm.
And then my hours started getting cut, and I wasn't getting the work I needed to, make it worth doing that. And I wasn't making enough to really pay for anything. So, it just kind of ended. It kind of ended badly,
Mm-hmm.
but it was right before Christmas, and I was just like, okay, that's it. I'm taking the leap. I'm doing it. And I just leapt and didn't look back.
Okay. So you left that sort of not exactly freelancing role and you set up by yourself. Did you find that kind of magically solved all of the issues that you were experiencing?
Oh no, because I felt like I had to do exactly what I'd been doing,
Mm.
whether I enjoyed it or not. So I kind of started doing the same exact thing. I was doing marketing for real estate agents, and I didn't call myself a copywriter. Actually, I didn't call myself a content writer. I just was this marketing virtual assistant type person.
Mm.
And sorry, go ahead.
I was going to say, it's really interesting that you hear it from a lot of people who start their own businesses, that it's almost like you sort of unconsciously or subconsciously recreate exactly what you were walking away from in your new business, because it's the only real way that you can conceive of work being.
Yes. Just so you know, you're a little staticky. I don't know if it's you or me. I tried to adjust mine, but
It is almost certainly me. It's always me.
okay. I'm going to let you know. Yeah, it actually did. It just recreated the same situation, except for now I was trying to find my own clients. So on top of doing the little work that I did, and it was way more on demand because I was a virtual assistant in real estate, and if you know anything about real estate, it's very, okay, I have a listing, I need all this stuff for this one listing tomorrow. So it's very on demand, and with the kids, it's really hard for me to manage that because I'd have to figure out, okay, what am I going to do with them for these 5 hours that I need to sit down and get this done? So I'd end up staying up really late or waking up really early, and I was exhausted. And I wasn't even making barely anything because after taxes, it's like nothing.
Yeah. Okay, so just setting up on your own was not the answer to fixing the problems of feeling like, you had to work these crazy hours, not making enough money, not feeling valued, not feeling like you're having an impact. What did you do? How did you fix it?
Actually, it's just been recently, over the past year and a half, I guess. I started working with a confidence mindset coach.
Okay.
She's amazing. And I worked with her for a few months, and we realized, I wasn't doing what I wanted to do. And that's why I wasn't getting any new clients, because I didn't want to do it in the first place.
Yep.
And so I was kind of avoiding getting clients, even though, I was technically trying. So we realized that I wanted to be a writer, and that's my passion. It's always been my passion. I've always wanted to build my business off of that, but I was always scared because I'm like, who's going to pay somebody to write stuff? Because it's so easy to write stuff. I mean, for me, it's easy to write stuff. That was my thoughts,
Yeah.
So why would somebody pay me to write their stuff? It's so easy to write. And then she's like, yeah, well, people will. Oh, okay, well, there's that. So I started offering content writing, and I kind of wiggled around and pivoted into audio repurposing into blog posts, which I enjoy. I really like it. But I came down with a problem when my kids got sick. I had all 3 of them down and out for 2.5 weeks.
Oh, wow.
And yeah, it was like one after another, and they were all kind of like overlapped, and everybody was up coughing at night, and especially the toddler, and I was exhausted from taking care of her all night and all day, and I didn't have any time to sit there and listen to podcasts and repurpose them into blog posts. And I was like, oh my gosh, this isn't sustainable. What am I going to do? Because there's no way I can like grow my business based on this, because I'm back where I was, working a lot, not having the time I need for my family.
Yeah. So that kind of unconscious pattern coming back again, And you're still sort of using, even though, you know, you've had this huge mindset shift and you've realized that you don't need to be afraid of going after what you're actually good at. And you're understanding that, you know, your zone of genius is probably not somebody else's, and they will totally pay you for you to work in yours.
Yeah.
Okay, so you're kind of back in that same spot. You're working late. You're not getting everything done. Are you still there? Have you managed to solve that one?
I am working on. I've been pivoting like for the past probably year, but I had like a aha moment probably 2 months ago, maybe 3 months ago, where I was like, oh my gosh, I'm a copywriter. How did I not realize that I was a copywriter? I've always had this thing in the back of my mind since I was a kid, because I've had some bad situations with some sleazy sales and manipulation going on, that I refused to do anything that was sales related. Like if it was sales, I wasn't going near it. And copywriting to me was sales.
Yeah.
So while it isn't either. You know, it's really just talking to people about getting them to do something you want them to do, whether it's click here or download this or, you know, read more, whatever the case may be. It doesn't have to be manipulative, and it doesn't have to be sleazy sales. And so that aha moment has made me really just way pivot my business again. So where I'm offering copywriting and content writing. And so that I can have that copywriting that can be maybe it's a one-time thing for website copy or lead magnet copy. And then I do blog posts to continue their content.
Yeah. So you've managed to reframe that idea so that it aligns with your values, and you're able to then, you know, feel good about doing this in-demand skill.
Right, exactly.
That's really cool. Okay, we do have a few people listening. Hello, Henrietta, Ashleen, and Susie. Before I allow them to come up and ask questions, I am just going to ask you a couple more. So I'm curious, if you look back at that shift, you know, and the time that it's taken you, what do you think are kind of the pivotal moments that stick out to you as, like, you know, without this, I wouldn't have gotten here?
Without my confidence mindset coach, definitely wouldn't have even pivoted. Maybe I would have even gotten a 9-to-5 job, gotten outside of the house or something if I had to. Because, you know, I was at that point, I was so burned out and I was done. I wasn't happy with it. I had started the business to grow and to do something of my own, and I wasn't there, and I was stuck, and I was miserable, feeling like I failed, and, you know, there wasn't anywhere else to go from there. So she helped me a lot. That was definitely a moment. And then my recent pivot into copywriting, realizing that I've been copywriting for 8 years, and, you know, it's kind of put me behind, not admitting that I was a copywriter, but now I can take off running and do what I really love to do, what I'm good at.
Yeah, and it's that journey as well of realizing what we're good at.
Yeah, exactly.
And really stepping into the fact that, you know, you don't have to be good at all of the things. You can just be good at the things that you're good at and the things that you enjoy. And there's just so much value in stepping away from trying to do the stuff that you don't love.
Yes, that's exactly true. Instead of trying to be everywhere and be everything to everybody, you know, hone in and be like, okay, I'm not doing this anymore. I'm not going to do social media posts anymore. I just don't want to.
It's fascinating, isn't it? That's such a sticky story that we often have, the idea that you have to do all the things, even the things that you don't like. I mean, you know, we grow up with it. It's often, you know, what we get in our employee jobs as well. It's like, well, you know, you get this bit that you really enjoy, but you still have to do, you know, the CRM system, even if you don't love it. And one of the beautiful things, I guess, about working for yourself is that you do get a lot more control over that.
Yes, definitely. And, you know, I still feel guilty saying, no, I don't do that a lot of times. But in reality, you know, why should I do it all? You know, there's people who specialize in that and in the back end things and the technical part of it. So why should I do something that I'm really not great at and I don't like?
Yep, I'm 100% with you. Wonderful. So yeah, opening it up then for everybody who is listening, if you have a question that you would like to ask, or whether you have an experience of that kind of a realization where you realize, oh my goodness, I just don't have to do this thing that I don't like anymore. Do pop your hand up and come along and share with us. While you're all thinking, Leah, I'm curious, because one thing that we haven't talked about, which is often really important for people's kind of satisfaction at work, is that element of kind of community and colleagues. And it sounds like you went from sort of freelancing to working alone. So how do you fit that part in?
Actually, that was a big part that was lacking for a long time. And I just recently started purposefully networking. I built a Facebook group. I started Zoom, like joining things like this and Zoom sessions and whatever I can to meet people and talk to people. I put out feelers for, hey, who wants to connect? Let's just have a coffee chat. So I've done a ton of Zoom meetings with random people who just to connect and see if we mesh or don't mesh. Like creating a referral network and stuff like that. And I'm actually setting up a Zoom session with like a coffee chat with like 10 people, and I'm going to try to do it at least twice a month. Maybe it'll evolve to more, maybe it'll end up being less. It'll depend on how it goes. But where we all just go on there and meet each other.
I love that. And I love the sort of, I hate the word proactive, but I'm going to use it anyway, kind of proactive attitude there of just being like, oh, this is a problem, I'm going to fix it, and I'm just going to take actions until I find the one that works for me.
Yeah, and I didn't know it was a problem until I started really talking to more people, and I realized, oh wow, this is something that I'm missing in my life and in my business, is being surrounded by children all day. Not very safe for your mental health sometimes.
It's a very different type of conversation, isn't it?
Yeah, it definitely is. Stop touching this. Stop touching this. No, get out of trash.
It would be odd if you had to say that kind of thing to your colleagues. Susie, right. I see that you have joined us. Please unmute yourself.
Hey, thanks, Charlotte. Hi, Leah. My name is Susie Castellanos. I came here because I love Charlotte's rooms, and I am also a life coach. I work with high achieving women and overcoming anxiety and imposter syndrome. And I just really found your story really valuable, Leah. And I just wanted to chime in a little bit that I had a very similar experience where I was in a very, what I now call a toxic job, but I didn't know at the time. And that's how I started I found a coach, right? And I found the life coach school. I joined in with the self-coaching scholars. Charlotte and I are both certified coaches through the life coach school, but they have a program for people who simply want to, learn how to self-coach. And so I was doing that because I was feeling that same way of, well, you don't want to just leave your job and replicate it. It's like people who leave a romantic relationship and hop to the next one and hop to the next one, and they're not really looking at their own stuff. So I stayed there for about 7 years. And thanks to the life coaching, I started to really see it's not me, it's them, right? Because before I kept thinking, it's me, it's me, it's me, because I had a lot of anxiety and imposter syndrome, and I had a lot of undiagnosed trauma from early childhood. And so it was just really fascinating that the coaching was fantastic because it helped me to really see what was going on, is that, oh, I just have these unconscious thoughts and beliefs that, well, and I didn't catch your whole story, Leah, but certainly for me, it was replicating sort of the way in which my upbringing, it was that same kind of relationship that was being played out with my manager and me, that in retrospect, it turned out, okay, because my nervous system and my brain, it felt comfortable for me to be there, even though it was really painful. And really, it wasn't until I got coaching that I started to see the challenge. And then eventually I did trauma therapy and really saw how toxic it was. And so I was happy to finally leave that job last year And in the interim, I did decide to become a life coach because I found it so valuable to help other people see where their mindset was stopping them. And then I also do, trauma informed coaching and somatic work for people who don't realize how unconscious their things are. But I just love this opportunity to come up and share this because I think that everything you guys were saying, Charlotte and Leah, so important that we start to recognize these unconscious patterns that might be keeping us stuck someplace. And that part of getting our power back is having somebody who can help us see what are our unconscious thoughts, feelings, patterns that are driving us to this, so that we can then see what they are. And once we get them out of our head, it just becomes possible to work with them and see whether it really is something we want to stay with. So I just appreciate Leah and Charlotte, you're having this room because I think it's so important that we address our unconscious thinking that can keep us stuck in a place, and we can keep replaying that if we do not have access to somebody who could help us see what's really happening. And with that, I yield my mic. Thank you.
Thanks, Susie. I've actually got, Leah, if you don't mind, I have a question from Ashleen. She's got some audio issues, so I'm just going to read that out if it's okay with you.
Sure.
So she's curious to know, you said that the mindset and confidence coaching was really, really important to you. And she was curious, what are some of the key questions that the coach asked you or that you asked yourself that really helped you to realize what it was that you wanted to do, what felt aligned for you?
Oh, wow. Well, that was about a year and a half ago now that, well, I mean, I'm still in touch with her, but like, she just was very open to discussing everything. Like, she would guide me through, like, she did a lot of guided things where, like, I don't even know what, I don't want to call it a meditation, but she kind of like takes me back to my childhood and figure out these key moments that affected me in my life and why I feel a certain way. The confidence thing is a big one from my childhood. So that was a big part of my, I guess, my change. I feel like I'm a different, I don't want to say a different person, because I'm not a different person, but my confidence is crazy different than it was a year ago.
Yeah.
So like, I don't know exact question that she asked, but it was a lot of diving into my past and things like situations that kept like kind of popping in my head from when I was a kid, and like memories that have always kind of nagged at me and I never knew why. And since we did those sessions and went back and looked and really dove into it, now I know why they kept coming up for me, even though like they don't bother me anymore. Like, I don't even think about them, and they would come up frequently for me.
It's incredible how much that can do when you start to unravel some of those stories that you've got. Yeah. And Ashleen, thinking about kind of the idea of some questions that you might be able to ask yourself if you're feeling a bit confused about what is going to feel really aligned, start by thinking about, what am I good at? Start about thinking like, what do I genuinely enjoy doing? And you can do that either like in a work context or not in a work context. Just think of the times when you have been really, really happy, like, full of energy, full of joy, having a great time. And then start to ask yourself what was going on at the time. Who were you with? What type of activities were you doing? What role did you have in that situation? Were you alone? Were you with a lot of people? That kind of thing. And it'll start to narrow down the common threads for you in areas where you just feel really, really great. And as you gradually go around collecting that information, it will give you a few kind of paths towards, something where I get to work with a lot of people, where I'm in a leadership role, where I'm also, I don't know, hosting events on LinkedIn, whatever it happens to be, where you find that place that you really enjoy. And then the other thing that's always worth looking into, if you haven't done it already, is really diving into your strengths, either with Gallup Strengths or if you don't want to pay for that, VIA, not the same, but still quite good. And then looking at areas where those things overlap. So the things that bring you joy and the things that you have strengths in, And that should give you a bit of an idea of areas where you can start to look for potential new jobs or new ideas within your current job, which might feel fulfilling to you. I hope that was a little bit helpful. Okay, we've got a couple more minutes here if anybody has any other questions. Otherwise, I'm going to say, Leah, tell us how people can find you, how they can follow you, how they can get your help with copywriting or blog posts or lead magnets or anything else that you do.
Well, I have obviously on here.
Mm-hmm.
Feel free to reach out on me here. I'm not on here as much as I probably should be, but I'm trying to do better with that. I am on Instagram mostly under Leah Stine Writing, and I have a website, leahstine.com. I do have a holiday deal coming up, or actually it's available now through December 15th. It is 25% off of any of my services, which
Amazing.
is a really big deal. So
yes, it
if
is.
you need copy or content, now's the time to get in for that deal, because if I get a lot of interest, I may cut it off early.
Yep, got to mind that capacity, don't we? Well, that sounds absolutely amazing.
Right.
So definitely, yes, if you need someone who thinks that copywriting is super easy and nobody would ever pay for it, then Leah is in her zone of genius there. She can absolutely help you. And if you are more along the lines of thinking that you need some help figuring out what you want, or with the mindset around changing a job and not replicating those same behaviors that are making you unhappy at the moment, please reach out to me. That is exactly what I do, and I can definitely help you with that. So, and the best place to do that is LinkedIn. It's the easiest place to find me. So it only remains to say thank you so much, everybody, for coming today, Susie, Ashley, and Lizzie, and Henrietta. And thank you, Leah. I've really enjoyed this conversation.
Me too. Thank you for having me. I appreciate it.
I appreciate you joining us. I hope everybody has a wonderful evening. And yeah, I do these pretty much every week. So if you have topics that you would like someone to talk about, please let me know.
Awesome. Thank you.
Thanks, everyone.
Have a good one.
Yeah, you too. Bye now.